Hello, this is John Wengert with Softworks Systems Inc. And I'd like to show today you some of the modifications that we've been making to the events module that we previewed at our ROSE Users Group meeting. So one of the important changes that we've made with the new events module is that an event now is an entity that lives outside of the context of any particular given order. So here in the events tab, you'll see we have a number of events defined. And so when we create an event, we have certain data that we can have with it, and the photographer can define for themselves what data they want to have associated with all of their events. Here we simply have a name and a shoot date. But let's say we also wanted to add a field that tells us whether, this has already been paid for. Well, we can just go to this cog here, and we see here the list of events, or the list of fields that we have associated with each of our events. If we just hit the plus button and add a new field name, so let's say we want to have a paid, and the data type is going to be Boolean, so it's yes or no, and we save that, and we come back. We can see, okay, now we have a new field that all of the events that we have now keeps track of. So this gives the photographer a lot of flexibility as to what data they want to keep on any particular event and how they want to organize their information. You can also on any of these fields double click on a header to sort by ascending or descending information, as well as up at the top there is a field that lets you filter. So for example, let's say we wanted to look at all the events that start with rug, we can do that very easily. So that's kind of one of the big conceptual differences now, is that an event is an entity on its own and it lives outside of the context of any particular given order. So let's create an event here. So we'll hit the plus button. A new event shows up in the list. Here it is. It's untitled. If we want to change it, we can simply double click on the fields right here in the table. So let's say, let's call this demo event. And and we're sorting on that field, so he suddenly jumped positions, so that's okay. And so we'll select him, and then we'll say, okay, let's go look at the subject info. So now let's say the photographer maybe has received a data file with the information on the subjects that are going to be part of this event. So you click on the subject info table, and we recognize, hey, there is no subject data that's been set up yet, so what would you like to do? And we present to you the options. So maybe you might have data in a CSV file. Maybe you just want to create an empty table and you're going to completely define it yourself. Or possibly, as we've detected that in the catalog that we're using, the lab has defined some preset tables, and so that's an option that we could use there as well. So for this example, we're going to import some data from a CSV file. So we click on this and it says, okay, go ahead and locate the file for me. So we'll look at our RUG 2004 events, and here's our CSV file with the data that we're after. Now, we can see here we're showing some of the first few records, so you get an idea, given your selections, how this data parses out. Nothing here is quoted, so we're in good shape. The only thing I see is that the first row actually has field names, so we'll mark that. So it lets us know what fields we actually have in this data. So we'll go ahead and click on the next. And okay, that has set up our table. So the next step that it's asking us to do is to pick a package that is going to define the definitions for this group. So this is also a little bit of a change from how we had packages, or how we had events implemented before. We used to have a separate process of basically defining packages for the events. And so what we've done is we said, well, let's utilize the packager capability and let that be the means by which you define packages that you'll use in events. So over in my packages, I have my favorites, and I also have another tab called School Packages. So I'll go ahead and select that and hit Next. Now it's asked me, do you already have images that you want to populate in this table? And we'll say, in a typical kind of scenario, a photographer I don't think would, and because they haven't maybe gone to the shoot yet. So I'll say, no, I don't have them at this time. And so, okay, this is the data that we've brought in, just some example data. And let's say we're going to we know we're going to go to our shoot and maybe keep a couple of images for each subject in here. So I'm going to go select the first row, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say add rows, and I'm going to add 2 rows to this table. And the first row, I'm going to just double click on that field, and I'm going to call this say headshot. And the second field, let's call body shot. Okay, so now I've defined a couple of fields to hold the images that I know I'm going to associate with this data here. So let's actually go look at the images that we're going to use. So I'll click on this little tab, which will bring up my area to go select some images. And we'll select the images that belong to our event. And we'll take a little look here at the images, and you'll notice something different. So every one of the subjects here, the first picture that we took was the subjects holding what we call a subject card. Now, a subject card is a card that contains a QR code and that identifies the record that this subject belongs to. It also has human readable data on there as well. So both by doing analysis on the images, on the photos that's taken, we can automatically associate images to a record. If there is an issue, you can go in and look at the data on the card in order to make corrections. So what is the process of creating those subject cards? Well, let's hide this table for a moment, because really the first step one would have done is, before going to the shoot, is to say print the subject cards. So if we select the print subject cards button, we'll have an opportunity to see the camera cards that are defined. Now, you can, as a lab, you can create your own camera card products, and but we didn't want to require the labs have to go do something to their catalog. So if there are no camera cards defined in there, we define a couple by default to give you some options. So here, this one looks pretty good. And so we'll go ahead and select that. And if we were to say print, now we would get a print dialog. So by default, we try to fit as many of these on a page as possible. This is a product that's defined as a 4x5, so you can get 4 of them on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. You have all the kind of standard print setup capabilities you might expect to have. So you have a native page setup that you can use to change the orientation of the paper and whatever particular options your printer might provide. We're showing you a preview here of what the different pages will look like when you have when you've actually selected it. And you can then go ahead and say print, and then select the particular printer that you want to print these items to. So I'm just going to hit cancel here. Okay, so using that mechanism, the photographer would print those subject cards. They take those subject cards with them to the shoot, give them to the subject before they shoot their photos. The first photo should be taken with the subject, showing the subject card, and then any number of shots of the subject after that will all be grouped along with that into that record that's identified in the subject card that was first seen. So let me give you a little demonstration. So we'll go back to our set of events, our set of images, and we'll select the images that belong to this event. And so again, we see here each subject, and followed by the images for that subject. Now we can do we can automatically go through, the client can automatically go through and scan these images and find those cards. So let's tell it to go ahead and do that. Scan for subject cards. So now at this point, we're going to go scan through each one of those images. We're going to locate we're going to look at the content of the image and see if we find a subject card in there. And if we do find a subject card, we'll identify what record this belongs to. And then for any of the following images, they will also be placed into basically the bin for that subject until we find another image that has a subject card that's different. One of the interesting things about this approach is that if you run into a situation where you've forgotten maybe to take one of the poses for somebody, you can always come back to them. And if you just shoot them again with their subject card and then shoot the additional shot, all those will be placed together properly with their first set of images. Okay, so we have finished going through and doing our analysis on the images, and looks like we did a pretty good job finding the subject cards, and they're placed, first in the list. And but we did have a couple of it does look like we had a couple of issues. If we select this image, and maybe we can get a little bit of an idea what happened there. Let's zoom in on it. So we can select this and we can see, okay, Mark's finger is actually partially covering the QR code. So that's why we couldn't automatically scan this one. But we also see that we've printed a human readable ID value there. So we know Mark should belong in group 6. So let's zoom back out for a moment. I'm going to right click on the cell. And I'm going to say mark this as a subject card. At this point, we'll have a dialog will come up where we can select an ID for this image. Now, one of the things we do is we actually look through and we find we only show you IDs that are defined in your table that have not been had anything associated with it. So we see here 6, 10, and 13. Well, we know Mark was 6, so we'll do that. And we leave this checkbox which says assign subsequent images. So not only will this subject card be associated to 6, but so will any of the following images in this row, in this column rather. I click OK, and now Mark is over 6. So it looks like we had a similar thing here with Peter. He's also got his finger on the barcode, so we can zoom in to this image here, and we can see Peter is 10. Okay, and I'll zoom back out. I will right click on this cell, and I will mark this as a subject card, and 10 is the correct result for that. And we have one other. Not quite sure why this one didn't scan. Perhaps it was the angle at the card, but sometimes those kinds of things happen. But we'll do the same sort of thing here. Right click and mark this as a subject card. And 13 is what we want assigned. So, okay, now we have everybody grouped properly with their images. And so one of the other things that we wanted to provide was an ability to select from among the images that you had shot easily. So we have a sort best option. So if you click on sort best, you can pick from among the images that belong to a particular subject. So you can define how many you want to choose. So we're set up by default to choose 2. We could do 1. We could do 3. But let's go with 2 because we want to do that. If you remember, we had the headshot and body shot. So we'll pick those. So all you have to do is click on it. There's headshot, body shot. We'll go headshot and body shot. And you just continue to go through your data like that. And you can easily filter out your choices and pick which ones you want to use within the event. So we'll continue through here and get our mouse shots and our Money McPiggington shots, and okay. Now we have selected our images, so we can see the two that we selected are now sitting up in the separate row. So and they're up at the top. So we're going to now assign a field for those to be those images to be placed into. So the second row here are the headshots. So we'll say, okay, we want that to be the headshots. First row here is the body shot. So I'll select body shot. And I think we're good to go. So let's say go ahead and do the import. And so now all those images that belong to those rows where we've assigned a value will be placed into their corresponding rows in the subject info table. Okay, so now we're back here and we see, okay, yep, indeed, it did actually create it did actually populate our fields with the images that we selected. And we can hide those images. And so maybe at this point, really the only thing we have to do is we need to add a packages field. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's we'll add it down here. I'll say add a row. We'll add one. And I'm going to call it packages. And I'm going to select that row, and I'm going to say use this row as the packages field. Now, if I get off of the selection here, you'll see it's red, which indicates that there's nothing valid. There are no valid data currently sitting in that packages. So we're going to go ahead and we'll say A-1, which says that we're going to order one of package A. And we'll notice there's another cog over here down on the right. If we were to select that, it would actually give us the opportunity to, if we wanted to change, for example, our package group, we could easily do that. We also see that the format we're defining for the for the packages is P-Q, so product-quantity. So I have a package A defined in my school packages, and we'll take a quick look at that in a moment. If I wanted to have multiple ones, then I would separate them with a semicolon. So A1 is a valid value. So if you'll see now that the background of that lights up to be green. So I'm going to take that, just take that same value, and I'm going to copy that over to the other fields in this row. So, okay, copy value to the entire row. Are you sure? Yeah. Okay. So now you see everything is green, and we can proceed with our start review. So before I do that, let's go back and let's look at the products tab, and we'll select actually what we're going to do is we're going to bring up our school packages. So you can see here are the items in the package that I've defined: an A, a B, a C, and a T. So that is just using our regular packager capability. You can create packages. You can set up your packages that way. If I come back to the Events tab, and let me jump back into this subject. So if you had to find your packages, one of the other steps is to associate fields, which you probably would do once, and then you'd be all set. So we have an associate fields button, and so we see, okay, here are the packages that are defined, and here are the fields that I have in my table. So I can say I'm going to use a headshot in these products, and then simply do the association just by dragging a field into a product in your package. So maybe we'll do body shot there and headshot for the AWT wallet. and body shot on the baseball card. So that's how we can do our association. So it's just that simple. So now we can go back to our subject data here, and if we were to say, okay, go ahead and start the review, we can see it is populating the products with the images that we selected. Of course, I've committed a bit of a faux pas here, because really I should have. If you're going to create a package that you're going to define this way, the orientation of the nose, you probably just want to line them up. So I should have rotated this product so that the headshot wouldn't be 90 degrees off. But it communicates the idea. So this looks good. We can say, yep, go ahead. Automatic node, yep, go ahead, create all the rest of them. And so now you can see we're also showing, as we go along, the particular subject. We're showing down below the table that that is driving this process, and then we're showing the particular record. We're highlighting that as we move along and create the actual products. Okay, and when we finally are done, says, you've reached the end of the order templates in your table. Would you like to add these items to the current order? Yeah, let's go ahead and add them to the order. So now we've, we can see we have all the products that we've ordered are now in our cart, and so that's an example of some of the modifications that we're making to the events module. We are shooting to have it something that can be within your hands probably within the next couple weeks or so, and hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Bye bye.